In the opening scenes, we see a girl named Ellen, who has lost her sight, stepping onto a balcony and climbing over a railing. Events then take us back in time. Ellen, who was recently attacked, wakes up in the intensive care unit. Nurse Omar removes a bandage from the girl's face. Ellen panics when she realizes she can't see. Omar immediately calls the doctor. Katsuro explains to Ellen that she lost her sight due to a chemical burn on her retina. Unfortunately, this process is irreversible. Hearing this, Ellen burst into tears of despair. Nightmares plagued her. Detective Bryce soon visited the girl and asked her to describe the criminal. Ellen only remembers that it was a man. The only valuable item in Ellen's car was her violin, which she had just retrieved from storage. It was worth $500,000. In the evening, Ellen received a call from her brother, who is currently in Japan. They haven't talked in a long time and were in a quarrel. But now the brother, forgetting all resentment, has hired a helper for his sister until he returns from Japan. Clayton Haley specializes in adapting people who have lost their sight and other senses. In addition, the brother found an apartment in the city center, where it is safe and quiet. Soon Ellen was discharged from the hospital. Upon waking up, she feels disoriented. The girl doesn't remember how she got here. Clayton knocked on the door, asking for permission to enter. He said he had completed medical courses and had extensive experience caring for blind and deaf people. Ellen tries to explore her new apartment by touch. Now she has to learn to navigate in space without vision. Clayton's responsibilities include cooking and cleaning. But his main task is to adapt Ellen to her new life. He will teach her Braille and how to use a cane. According to Clayton, losing sight doesn't mean losing oneself. Having finished all the housework, Clayton left. Ellen spent the whole evening trying to call her friend Sasha, but she wouldn't answer the phone. At night, Ellen had nightmares again. At some point, she felt water dripping from the ceiling. The next day, Clayton gave Ellen a pet, a parrot. The girl is happy to have company now. She tries to imagine what the bird looks like. Detective Bryce left a voice message for Ellen, informing that they had checked all her ex-husband's clients, but each of them had an alibi. The police have no leads yet. Ellen told Clayton that her husband had been imprisoned for financial fraud. Now friends and family don't want anything to do with her. Most of all, the girl is upset that she probably won't be able to pursue music anymore. Clayton tries to instill optimism in her, but Ellen doesn't believe she can ever be the same again. Left alone, she listens to music and tries to learn how to use the cane. At night, Ellen heard a key turning in the lock. She tried to call the emergency services but couldn't hit the right buttons. Ellen went to check if everything was okay. The front door was locked. The girl can't sleep. Every sound seems too loud to her. At some point, she heard rustling and someone's breathing again. Ellen asked who was here. Women's sobs were heard in the apartment. Ellen remembers how the husband forbade her to help Sasha, who was in bad shape. The next day, Ellen told Clayton about everything that had happened. He explained that all her feelings were heightened to the maximum right now. When Clayton suggested going for a walk around the city, Ellen refused. She wasn't ready to step out into the outside world yet. However, as soon as Clayton left, Ellen went out to explore the inter-apartment corridor and left a note on the neighbor's door offering to join her for a cup of tea. The next day, Clayton taught Ellen how to use a computer. With the help of a voice assistant, she can significantly simplify her life. Ellen asked Clayton why he chose this profession. The guy said he had been taking care of his sick mother since he was a child. Since then, Clayton has wanted to help people in need. Ellen asked him to describe the view from the window. Then the girl tried to feel how Clayton looks like. In the evening, Ellen was drinking and learning how to use the voice assistant. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. It was a neighbor, on whose door Ellen had left the note. The girl's name is Lana. She lives next door with her husband, Russo. Ellen immediately told her she couldn't see anything. In spite of Ellen's request not to smoke in the apartment, Lana took a cigarette. Besides, Ellen found it suspicious that her neighbor somehow found out that she used to be sighted. The girl guessed right away that Lana had lied about her age. She wasn't really 48 years old. Touching the neighbor's face, Ellen felt the scar. After advising her not to trust anyone, Lana hurried away. Her husband Russo, whom she fears very much, returned. Ellen immediately called Clayton and told him everything, but the guy thought she was being dramatic. Then Ellen called Detective Bryce. The next day, the detective called Ellen back and said there was no reason to worry. The girl was shocked to learn that Lana had no scar on her face and that she was really 48 years old. Ellen no longer understands what is reality and what is fantasy. Soon she noticed that every time Clayton comes to her, an alarm goes off on a car downstairs. This happens at the same time. Clayton reassured the girl, saying that she was looking for patterns where there were none. Ellen can't stop thinking about that fateful day when she lost her sight. Unable to hold back tears, She opened a pill bottle but immediately closed it. Gaining determination, Ellen walked into the inter-apartment corridor and met Lana. Or so she thought. In reality it was Russo. The man threatened the girl and advised her not to approach Lana anymore. Soon Clayton came to Ellen, not at the appointed time. Learning about what had happened, he wanted to go talk to Russo, but the girl asked him not to. Then Clayton confessed to Ellen that he couldn't take money from her as a social worker because he had feelings for her. Clayton promised his beloved that he would continue to help her as before. Perhaps over time, their friendship will turn into something more. When the guy kissed her, Ellen pushed him away, saying she had been wrong about her neighbors, him, and everything in general. After that, she can't trust him. Clayton left. Another attempt by Ellen to get through to Sasha again went nowhere. A few minutes later, someone entered the apartment. Ellen thought it was Clayton, since he was the only one with keys. But it became clear almost immediately that it wasn't him. Perhaps it was Russo, but Ellen couldn't be sure. She screamed and ran, but the unidentified masked man caught her and knocked out. When Ellen regained consciousness, a paramedic was by her side. Clayton, who felt guilty for leaving the girl, arrived soon after. Ellen told that the person who broke into her home was definitely not Russo. Detective Bryce examined the apartment and found no signs of forced entry. The detective had a suspicion that it was Sasha. The boot prints near Ellen's car matched the size of her friend's foot. Ellen couldn't believe it. The mask was the last thing she saw on the day she lost her sight. The problem was that according to surveillance footage, no one except the social worker entered the home. The neighbors also confirmed that they didn't hear anything suspicious. Ellen doesn't understand what's happening. The detective believes that no one broke into Ellen's apartment. Since she just went blind, her perception of the world may not always be accurate. Clayton stayed to take care of Ellen, but in the morning he had to go to the other patients. Ellen feels guilty towards the brother, who was right about her husband. It was Ellen's husband who stole from Sasha and many other people. Now Ellen is paying the price for it. She's also convinced that her neighbor Lana is in great danger. Leaving a farewell note for her brother, Clayton, and Sasha, Ellen went out onto the balcony. She was about to take a step down to end her suffering. In the next scene, we see Ellen waking up in an unknown place. She began feeling the walls, which turned out to be soft. Behind it, she heard strange noises. She climbed back onto the balcony. It turns out that Clayton had been lying to her all along. Ellen didn't actually live in a high-rise building. Her apartment was nothing like Clayton described it. In a panic, Ellen ran into the inter-apartment corridor, but the elevator wasn't working, and all the doors were locked. Ellen had a hysterical fit. After calming down, she went back into the corridor and met Lana. Ellen now knows for sure that these people are intentionally misleading her. Asking Lana for help, Ellen brought her to the apartment and turned on the water so no one could overhear them. Ellen asked what was going on. Lana only said that they were doing it all for her. According to Lana, Ellen had saved them. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Russo came for Lana, saying they had a car waiting. A minute later, Clayton arrived, planning to cook a special dinner. Ellen demanded that Clayton answer what this place was. He explained that it was a mental institution. Ellen's brother paid for the inpatient treatment. Like Lana, Ellen was one of Clayton's patients. According to him, it was his new treatment method designed to cure patients of post-traumatic stress and help them adapt to the real world. Ellen allowed Clayton to hug her, still unable to come to terms with the fact that it was really a psychiatric hospital. As promised, Clayton prepared dinner and also gave Ellen a gift, her violin. She had stopped playing because of her husband and wasn't sure if she was ready to start again. When Clayton briefly left, Ellen realized the horror of what was happening.
Back into the blanks.
There had been no nurse, doctor, detective, or Russo. It was all the same person, Clayton. He had been deceiving her all along because he was a good actor. Recalling Lana's words about not trusting anyone, Ellen realized she had to do everything she could to escape. Pretending everything was fine, Ellen offered Clayton a drink. Ellen intentionally dropped her glass. When Clayton leaned over to pick it up, she knocked him out and took his keys, but it didn't fit the lock. Suddenly Clayton regained consciousness and grabbed her, but almost immediately collapsed again due to injury. Ellen found a taser, the keys and the cane in her purse, then left the apartment. It wasn't an inter-apartment corridor, but a building of some kind. Ellen stumbled upon many different uniforms that Clayton had used to transform into a nurse, doctor, detective, and others. Ellen called out for Lana and found her in a room designed to look like a hospital ward. It turned out that Lana was Clayton's sister. She didn't want to help the brother carry out his horrific plan, but she had no choice. Ellen tried to convince Lana to go with her. She knows what it's like to succumb to someone else's control, but from now on Ellen is her own mistress. Despite everything, Lana was going to stay here because Clayton was her only family. Ellen went to look for a way out, but Clayton found her and knocked out. Later he revealed that everything changed when their mother passed away. The alcoholic father kept him in the basement for 3.5 years. Clayton's only connection to the outside world was his imagination. The sister played Ellen's music for him, which gave Clayton hope. That's why he built this place for her. Now Clayton wants Ellen to believe in his imaginary home and everything else again. Seizing the moment, Ellen tased Clayton out and ran away. However, Clayton regained consciousness and caught up with her. A struggle ensued, during which Ellen splashed a chemical in her captor's face. Now he is also blind. Ellen held out her hand to Lana, and the girls left together. Lana released Ellen. 6 months passed. For the first time in a long time, Ellen prepared to take the stage and play the violin.